Live.
I'm going to call the special meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on Monday, September 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m. here in the Aldermanic Chamber, as well as Zoom teleconference. The prayer will be offered by Deputy Clerk Allison Waite, and Alderman Lou will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To join by Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the website for the meeting link and telephone number. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please indicate if participating via Zoom, state why you are not meeting in person and whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Deputy Waite, would you please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Clee. Alderman Kelly.
I'm here attending by Zoom to protect my unvaccinated children. And I can hear everyone.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Tenza.
Present.
Alderwoman Lou.
Here.
Alderman Jettie.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt. Alderman Laws. Alderman Cleaver.
Here via Zoom because of medical issues. I am alone.
Alderman Harry Gathright.
Present.
And Alderman Wilshire.
I am here.
All right, you have 8 in attendance and 2 via Zoom.
Thank you very much. Tonight's meeting is a public hearing, and as is customary, I will turn the meeting over to Chairman of the Budget Review Committee, Alderman Dowd.
Yes, we have 3 items for public hearings this evening. The first is R21-168, relative to the transfer of $30,000 from account 70100, general contingency, to accounting classification 51, salaries and wages, in administrative services, $25,000, and economic development, $5,000, for the purpose of funding salaries, establishing an opioid abatement expendable trust fund funded by appropriation, and making a supplemental appropriation of $27,223.40 into the expendable trust fund. Is there anyone here that's going to give us an overview of this resolution?
For the opioid abatement?
Okay. Director Bagley?
Yes, good evening. Bobby Bagley from the Director for Division of Public Health and Community Services. Just here to give information on establishing the trust fund for the opioid abatement. This is going to be funds that will be coming into the city from several suits that have been filed against several of the pharmaceutical companies that produced opioid drugs over the next 18 years. And as a result of this, the funds will be distributed over that period of time in different amounts and allocations to the city of Nashua, as well as to the other parts of our state as well. These funds are to be used for recovery work, for services that include intervention, treatment, and recovery services that will help mitigate opioid use disorder. The objective of getting this funding is to distribute this to service providers in our community that are providing these particular services so we can stem the tide with opioid use and substance use disorder. So it's very specific to the opioid resettlement that's expected to come to the state of New Hampshire over a period of 18 years from different resettlements that are going to be, that have been filed over the course of time.
All set? Thank you.
Thank you.
And is there any explanation for the other part of the resolution?
Good evening, Kim Kleiner, Administrative Services Director. So one piece of legislation is not tied to the other. The first part of the legislation on the agenda is the transfer of $25,000 into administrative services and the transfer of $5,000 into salaries and wages for economic development. That's actually 164. 168 is the legislation that Director Bagley is speaking to. They are not linked together, but I'm happy to give you an overview of 164, the salaries and wages.
Okay, I had mine that was put together in one, you're right, there are two different ones. I don't know why they were combined. But we'll address 164 first and then do 168, but we have both explanations.
Certainly.
Okay, so, relative to R21 164.
So good evening. This legislation is for a transfer of $25,000 into the administrative services, salaries and wages of $25,000 and $5,000 into the salaries and wages for economic development.
Chairman, is that resolution 168?
164. On the Word document we got, they were combined under 168, and they should have been two, 164 and 168.
What's on here is 168 and 169.
That's true, yeah.
That's what's on the agenda.
Yeah, 164,
I believe 164 may come at budget review. I don't believe that it
yeah, it's not.
requires
okay.
a public hearing, but I'll
Mr.
refer
Griffin?
to Mr. Griffin.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I was just going to say, it was never the intent for Resolution 164 to be a public hearing because it's a transfer.
Okay,
So we noticed it late this afternoon and tried to contact the legislative office, but we thought we'd be able to explain it here. So there really isn't any need to have a agree and disagree for 164.
so we only need a public hearing on 168 and 169.
Correct, thank
So
you.
168 was just described to us about the, just want to make sure I get that right.
Yep.
Which is the opioid abatement expendable trust fund that was explained by Director Bagley. Okay, so on R21 168, I'll now take any testimony in favor. Seeing no one, and I'll take testimony in opposition. Seeing no one, once again, testimony in favor. Seeing no one, testimony in opposition. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing on R21 168 at 7:09 PM. And now I'll open the public hearing on R21 169, authorizing the city of Nashua to enter into agreement and consent to joint use with Liberty Utilities and making a supplemental appropriation of $38,394. Who is going to give us an overview of that?
I can do that, Mr. Chair.
Director Hudson, how are you tonight?
I'm doing okay, thank you. So Dan Hudson, City Engineer. The city has a drainage and sewer easement which runs off the end of Swart Terrace towards the railroad to the east. Liberty Utilities wishes to upgrade their gas service to that neighborhood. They have a high pressure main along the railroad, so they're seeking to coexist in our easement for a portion of it because where it comes to Swart Terrace is narrow. We've working with legal, we've drafted an agreement with them, and it involves them paying us to line one of our drainage pipes, which is in close proximity to this proposed gas line. Those linings, are good for 50 plus years, 75 years, something like that. So we're comfortable with this coexistence in this easement area with the provision that lining occurs. So the $38,394, that's derived from our lining contract with our contractor and their unit rates. And this is no cost to the city. This is Liberty making that contribution in return for us granting this right to coexist in our easement.
Okay. Any questions from any of the aldermen on this resolution? Seeing none, I'll open up the public hearing on R21-169. Any testimony in favor?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Andrew Mills. I work for Liberty Utilities. We are at 38 Bridge Street in Nashua. Just to kind of quickly highlight the need for this easement. So we're trying to, as we continue to work to replace our aging infrastructure in the city, all of our cast iron that's 100 plus years old, this easement will allow us to cross and continue that goal. Without this easement, we won't be capable of replacing over 2,000 feet of old bare steel from some of the early 1960s and some of it's from 1910. So this easement will allow us to replace some gas main before the city decides to pave Swart Terrace, either the end of this year or early next year, preventing future leaks under a brand new road, and helps our long-term goal of, as I said, replacing our aging infrastructure to allow a safer distribution system in the city of Nashua. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testimony in favor? Seeing and hearing none. Testimony in opposition? Seeing and hearing none. Testimony again in favor? None. Testimony in opposition? None. I will now declare the public hearing on R21-169 closed at 7:13 p.m. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make the motion that the September 27th, 2021 special meeting of the Special Board of Aldermen be adjourned by roll call.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Tenza.
Yes.
Alderwoman Lou.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Cleaver.
Yes, thank you.
Alderman Harriet Gathright.
Yes.
And Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
All right, you have 11 yeas and 0 nays.
It passes. We're adjourned at 7:14 p.m. We'll take a couple minutes to start the budget meeting.
Good night. Have a good. Need 'em all. Good night. With bells on.
Okay. I'd like to call the Budget Review Committee of September 27th, 2021 to order at 7:14 p.m. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman, excuse me. Alderman Jettie?
Here.
Alderman Schmidt? Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly?
I'm here by Zoom. I can hear everyone.
Alderman at Large Michael O'Brien is present. Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire.
Here.
Alderman at Large Ben Clemens.
I am here via Zoom, and there is no one in the room with me, and I can hear everyone.
And the chairman, Richard A. Dow.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 members present. Also in attendance, we have John Griffin, CFO, Kim Kleiner, Administrative Services Director, and we may expect Tim Cummings, although right now I do not see him. Mr. Cummings is the Economic Development Director.
And Alderman Lou is here.
And Alderman Lou is also in attendance.
All right. Public comment? Is there anyone that would like to speak in public comment? Seeing and hearing no one, move on to communications.
From Fred S. T. Boone, regarding unacceptable restrictions in automatic participation during public hearings. Additional correspondence from Matthew Sullivan, Planning Manager, regarding referral from the Board of Aldermen to propose R-21-169 relative to the authorization of the City of Nashua to enter into an agreement and consent to joint use with Liberty Utilities and making a supplemental appropriation of $38,394.
Okay, unfinished business,
There is none.
new business resolutions.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I did skip, but right here.
Oh, being no objections, I'll allow the suspension of the rules to allow for communication that was received after the agenda was prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Additional communication from Lisa M. Photo, Director of Public Works. Referrals from the Board of Aldermen on Resolution R-21-165 and 21-166 and R-21-169.
And that was a favorable recommendation from the
And unfinished business, we have none, sir.
new business resolutions.
Before us this evening is R-21-163, establishing the use of fund balance for tax rate. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage.
Motion is to recommend final passage of R-21-163. Are there any questions from any of the board members? Alderman Jettie?
Is Chairman Griffin gonna just make a short presentation regarding this?
Mr. Griffin?
Good evening. I certainly can talk a little bit more about this particular resolution. John Griffin, CFO. This particular resolution is an annual resolution that you've been accustomed to, where we take surplus and essentially reduce the amounts needed for the tax rate. So in this particular case, the mayor is proposing $4 million to be used against the calculation of the tax rate that's coming up in the next month or so. As you may recall, every $2 million is approximately 1% on the tax rate. And as the mayor had indicated in his most recent remarks, he is trying to bring the increase in the tax rate in around 2.6, 2.7%. So without this particular approval of this resolution, and as I mentioned, every $2 million is 1% on the tax rate would be in the mid-4s. So this would be a good strategic move to reduce the increase in the tax rate this year by the $4 million. This particular resolution is tied to the mayor's annual notification of overlay and surplus that's supplied to the Board of Aldermen no later than September 1st of each year. So that was distributed to the members of the Board of Aldermen, and I can speak to that if you'd like, but that is essentially what we're trying to accomplish here with this particular resolution.
And I believe this will be on the agenda tomorrow night for the full Board of Aldermen meeting. Any questions? Alderman Lou?
Thank you. If I could just ask about last year's overlay. I know after the overlay was set in the budget in 2021 budget, it was decided to add an additional 3 million, I believe, to it. And my recollection is it was due to the uncertainty of the COVID and how tax revenues would be affected by the COVID-19. My understanding is tax revenues didn't suffer during the 2021 period. And has there been any consideration given or any assessment done as to whether that additional $3 million that was added after the budget session in 21 might not actually be needed and might be available for increased tax relief?
Mr. Griffin?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, as you recall, last year we recommended 2 million, which is a typical amount that we advise in a non-reval year, let's say, and COVID kind of hit us as a once in a 100-year event. But what we did do, and you recall, is we moved the 2 million to 3.5 million for last year. So the mechanics on the financial side is we put, instead of 2 million in the calculation, we put 3.5.
Okay.
With regard to the effective use of that, Director Kleiner, who was responsible for the assessing department, she would be able to speak to that as well, as to what's happened on the abatement side. That, as you know, that is an amount, and they call it an overlay, but that's the amount in the tax calculation to pay for abatements that are filed by residents and businesses. There is no amount remaining to give back. In addition, that September 1st memo that I speak about from the mayor, he was comfortable at that time with going with a 2 million amount for this year, coupled with the remaining amount that we had from last year. And we do have a reserve of $1.5 million for those purposes in the unassigned fund balance, but we haven't used it since I've been here. If you wanted a little bit more detail, I'm sure Director Kleiner will be able to explain part of your question that you asked of me.
If I could
Alderman
just
Lou?
follow up. Thank you. So you're right. I had misremembered. So it wasn't 3 million additional, it was 1.5 million additional.
Correct.
Additional above what had been planned in the budget process. So I'm just wondering, was any of that, how much of that, well, I know you can't really tell because it takes several years. So that's fine. I don't think I need any more information. It's felt that it needs to remain as, an overlay, a contingency on related
Right, and
abatements.
if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as a recap, we have the reserve of 1.5 million. We have the carryover from prior years of 3.1, and then we have the fresh 2 million this year. That totals 6 million. We're comfortable with that number at this time for this particular tax year that we're going into.
And
All set?
just one question.
Sure.
How does that compare to usual?
It's Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's very comparable. As you may recall, a few years ago, we put the 3.5 million in to protect against the reval and abatements that come in. But it's a good number we feel comfortable with. Prior to the reval, probably from 2010 to 2016, 17, we used to put 2 million in. But as you recall, back in 10 to 14, the assessments were going down because the values were weakening. And then from 14 to 18, they were rebounding quite substantially. But this particular amount is a comfortable amount going forward into this particular tax year.
Okay, thank you.
All set?
I just want to follow up with one. I think it would have been helpful and informative to have the vision update in anticipation of this discussion.
Director Kleiner?
Yes, good evening. So there is an analysis that we do in conjunction with the CFO's office on the overlay account, and we'd be happy to get that to you. I know we've given that to some members of the board, and you may consider that helpful. As far as abatements, there are still abatements that are under consideration back from the 2018 revaluation. So not all of those appeals have been processed. Looking at those appeals that remain and adjusting for any abatements that we may receive this coming spring, we are confident in the numbers that we have projected. I would say that, I understand that there's a lot of questions regarding vision and the revaluation. We have scheduled a November 15th meeting for that. The reason for doing that is our chief assessor has to look at sales and whether those sales have been qualified or unqualified. The more sales that they've had an opportunity to review and qualify, the better the information. So we feel confident that come November, we'll have some solid information to share with the board, and we'll certainly ask Vision to be at that meeting. If you are looking for some information prior to that, Vision will be attending the Board of Assessor meeting on October 6th.
All set, Alderman Lou?
Yes, thank you. I would, did you say that there was a report that some of the aldermen had received on the overlay analysis? I'd be happy, to receive that if you could email it to me. Thank you.
We'll send it to the whole board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Alderman Jettie? You look like you had a perplexing question ready to go.
Thank you. I didn't tell you could tell through my mask.
It's your eyes.
While Director Kleiner is here, I don't know if she would be, prepared to, give us a report as to how we've been doing on abatements. Have we been winning or losing, or can you give us any kind of a sense about that?
We probably should get a summary if you can do it, but a full explanation probably should go to the full board so everybody has that. But you certainly give us a quick overview.
Certainly. So, as you know, with the appeals, that entails working with our legal department, and that we do very well. I think we work with a mediation process that is both fair and just, both to the city and to the taxpayer. We still have a number of commercial appeals that are not finished. Part of that is the delay that you saw with the courts during COVID. So there's just a back lag at the BTLA and the Hillsborough Superior Court. But in most cases, I feel very confident in saying that we, working with the legal department, and that's their specialty, generally fare well for both the city and the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you.
All set? Any other questions? No? All right.
Mr. Chairman, when I call for my motion, I did not say, because we have members of the committee on Zoom, it has to be by roll call.
Roll call, yes. So the motion before us is R21-163, establishing the use of the fund balance for the tax rate. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman Clement,
Yes.
and Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries, and this will be forwarded on to the full board tomorrow evening. R21-164,
This evening, we have before us R21-164, relative to the transfer of $30,000 from account 70100, general contingency, to accounting classification 51, salaries and wages, and administrative services, $25,000, and economic development, $5,000, for the purpose of funding salaries. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a recommendation of final passage by roll call.
okay, the motion on the floor is to recommend final passage of R21-164. Are there any questions? Alderman Lou?
Will there be a presentation of what the, why the salaries are? Is this the one about the salaries?
Sorry,
Thank you.
we did have an explanation during the public hearing. Did you want some more information?
Well, I only heard a reiteration of the resolution.
Yeah, it's a typical resolution that we do because we keep our money for raises in contingency, and when it comes time for those to be approved, we transfer the money from contingency by resolution into the department's account. Are you interested in who?
No, well, are you telling me that the $30,000 is one or more raises?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
I thought they were hires. So if there's any more
Ms. Kleiner?
Sure.
expounding, I mean.
Director Kleiner, Administrative Services. I'd be happy to speak to this. So currently, in Administrative Services, we lost our administrative assistant who decided to move on. We have a program supervisor in risk management that worked as the office administrator for Administrative Services for many years when it was Director Maureen Lemieux. We have decided to reorganize and move that individual into Administrative Services where she can fully use her skill set that she developed over those years. This will be a much more detailed and robust position. She will be basically handling the organization of the different departments and working alongside me very closely. She'll be handling all of the right to know for all of the Administrative Services Department, working with the right to know lawyer, Nicole Clay. She will be overseeing the vehicles that we now have 3 vehicles in Administrative Services that were negotiated on behalf of the UAW contract. She'll be handling the DocuWare system that we are overseeing, as well as contract management. So moving that position from risk management into Administrative Services requires the additional $25,000 to fund that salary. And if Director Cummings isn't here, I can handle his as well. So
I don't see him.
Director Cummings has made a change, taking the Hunt Memorial Building and Arts Commission Administrator and moving that to half-time Office of Economic Development Coordinator in conjunction with the Hunt Building Memorial. So raising that position, that will require, with some additional monies that Director Cummings has, an additional $5,000. So it's basically taking that position and now giving it two functions.
So bottom line is two people are being elevated to a new work position that typically pays more in salary, and these are to make up the difference.
Yes, I see.
All set? Any other questions? No? All right. So again, the motion before us is R21-164. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Michael O'Brien votes yes. Alderman at Large, Laurie Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Ben Clemens.
Yes.
And our Chairman, Richard Dowd.
Yes. So that
Mr.
motion,
Chairman, you have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
R21-164 passes, and we forward it on to the full board. R21-168.
Again, this evening, before us is R21-168, establishing an opioid abatement expendable trust fund funded by appropriations and making a supplemental appropriation of $27,223.40 into the expendable trust fund. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion to recommend final passage by roll call.
Motion is to recommend final passage of R21-168. Any questions? Seeing no one? All right. Would the clerk please, the motion is for final passage. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Michael O'Brien votes yes. Alderman at Large, Laurie Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Ben Clemens.
Yes.
And our Chairman, Richard Dowd.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 6 yeas, 0 nays.
R21-168 is approved and forward on to the full Board of Aldermen. R21-169.
R21-169, authorizing the city of Nashua to enter into an agreement and consent to joint use with Liberty Utilities and making a supplemental appropriation of $38,394. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage by roll call.
And it has a favorable recommendation from the Planning Board and from the Board of Public Works. Are there any questions?
Alderman?
Yes,
Sure.
Alderman Jettie?
Yeah, it's not a question, it's just a comment that we're appropriating money that we're going to be getting from Liberty. So this is really, it's not costing us anything, it's just, we're just
Yep, zero.
accepting money from Liberty and we're gonna spend it on this project.
Yes. We have to do that by resolution, though. Yep.
Right, so, yeah, so I'm just pointing out that it's
Yeah.
a good deal.
And it's probably good for the people that are watching, so, that may have missed the public hearing, too. So, if there are no further questions, Alderman O'Brien, would you call the roll?
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Michael O'Brien votes yes. Alderman at Large, Laurie Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Ben Clemens.
Yes.
Chairman, Richard Dowd.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, 6 yeas, 0 nays.
R21-169 passes. The Budget Committee will recommend it for full passage to the Board of Aldermen tomorrow evening. New business ordinances,
There is none.
tabled in committee, there is none. General discussion. Anyone? Alderman Lou?
I just wanted to ask about the letter from Fred T. Boom that was included in the agenda packet, and wondering whether he seems to me that he's correct that we're meant to take a vote on limits to public hearing times. Has anyone else?
Typically, the
Concur?
chair of the committee on a public hearing has the latitude to limit the amount of time for public hearing discussion based on the number of people attending. If it's a small group, yes, we can probably give them additional time, and I think if they ask a question and there's somebody there that can answer it right then and there, that we won't hold that time against them.
Yeah, I thought so too. And then I read his letter, and it seemed verbatim from our ordinances, and I'm not sure I checked on it. And it could it possibly be that he has an old ordinance when he used to be on this board? Because his letter did specifically quote, and I don't have my
Yes,
device here.
he's quoting some older text.
Okay, all
The
right.
new ordinance that or resolution that went through addresses the time, including what I just mentioned about a public hearing.
Public hearing. That's what I thought initially, so thanks. I just wanted to ask about that.
In fact, I think it was R 19021. I can't be sure of that, but 009, I think it was. Anyway, next is public comment.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Jettie?
So I think I disagree. I think the language that former Alderman T. Boone quoted, I think is the current language. What it says is that this is different than our regular meetings. This is specifically addresses public hearings. And it does say that the chair may set or extend time limits for each member of the public speaking. So like, as you point out, if there's a large crowd, in order to give everybody a chance, we have to limit, it's reasonable to limit the amount of time they speak. And so the chairman, as I interpret this, the chairman does have the authority to do that.
Right.
And that's what it says. The chair may set or extend time limits for each member of the public speaking. But then it goes on to say, subject to motion and affirmative vote by members of the board or committee holding the hearing. So I'm not the city corporation counsel, and of course, corporation counsel can provide better guidance about that. But I think what that means is that the committee can, by majority vote, change, extend the time or shorten the time, do something different than what the chairman has set out. I think that would only be done under extraordinary circumstances, but I think, what this says is that the chairman can judge the room and how many people and determine what's reasonable. But if it happens where someone needs more time and the committee wants to hear more from a particular person, that the committee could vote to do that.
I do think the language changed in the latest version of the resolution when we got the new clocks and it mentions the timing and everything. I think some of the wording was changed. That was the way it was when I first got on the board 10 years ago, but it's been changed. And we can look that up in the new resolution, but Alderman O'Brien, did you want to?
Yeah, I think I know where Alderman Jettie, if I may, where I think you're coming from was from an infrastructure meeting, to which I did refer the question to legal. And according to legal, the Board of Aldermen, which has voted and changed the ordinance, sets the tone. And voted by the Board of Aldermen, it now blankets down or comes down, cascades down to all committees. And if you ever sat as a state representative or like Madam President, when you're president of the board or chairman of the committee, it's a powerful position, and his job is, or her job is to dutifully run a meeting and get it to a proper conclusion. But anyways, I did research your question. I did ask legal, and that was the answer I got from corporate counsel, that the chairman can and his committee set the times. Of course, you're free to have your own communication with legal if you wish, but that is what legal told me.
I believe Attorney Leonard is very familiar with it, the new one, because I think she wrote it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I weigh in on that?
Yes, Alderman Wiltshire?
I think there was some confusion at one point when we had public comment versus a public hearing. So the public comment period that we passed the ordinance on said 3 minutes, and that's what we set the clock to. But the public hearing, I'm not quite sure that we limit, I mean, not to 3 minutes, not the public hearing. Public comment period, yes. Public hearing, you can, I suppose, gauge the room. If you have 50 people that want to speak, you say 3 minutes. But I think we should look further into that, because I believe that what Ernie's saying is right.
We can get a copy of that and look at it, but I think the last one, when it came up, there were like 50 people in the audience, and to be fair, the amount of conversation was limited. I think the one thing that we needed to expand on is if somebody had a question from the public on what was being talked about, and there's somebody there that can answer it, we won't count that time against them to get the answer. If there's no one there that can answer it, then they will have to get the answer either in an email or writing at a later time. But we can certainly look into what the new ordinance says. Alderman Liu?
Thank you. It was the public hearing that Fred T. Boom was referring to, not the public comment at a regular schedule.
But there were a significant number of people here, and if we gave everybody 20 minutes to a half hour to speak.
I was just going to say that he referenced 528, and I have this code of the city of Nashua here that says updated, and Donna Graham, and 528 says the public hearing shall not be limited in duration, nor members of the public be denied the opportunity to speak, but the chair may set or extend time limits for each member, subject to motion and affirmative vote. Subject to sounds to me, and I believe it means as long as a motion and a vote is taken.
And passes, yes.
So anyways, I mean, it's right here. It's 528.
We'll talk to legal and get a legal opinion.
Oh, yeah. Let's get a legal opinion on 528D.
All right, public comment? I don't believe we have any members of the public on Zoom, none in the audience. Remarks by Alderman? Seeing none, we don't need a non-public. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn by roll call.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Jettie?
Yes.
Alderman at-large Shoshana Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman at-large Michael O'Brien? Yes. Alderman at-large Laurie Wilshire?
Yes.
Alderman at-large Ben Clemens?
Yes.
And Alderman Richard Dowd?
Yes.
That's 6-0, motion carries.
We're adjourned at 7:49 PM.